In this section, I will be highlighting the importance of timesheets, the protocols to follow when completing them, and how to correctly submit this paperwork. For clarification, a timesheet is a document, both physical and virtual, that keeps track of the amount of hours you worked in a particular month. The physical copy must be signed off by all of the cooperating teachers you are assisting and is always due at the end of the month unless otherwise stated. It will also keep track of the mandatory lunch you will have to take if you work more than 5 hours, as mandated by the state of California. Be sure to track your hours daily. The Pathways office will be doing a weekly check of online hours to ensure this is being taken care of. We cannot stress enough the importance of following all of these procedures. Failure to complete them will result in a delay in your pay. Be mindful of deadlines. You are able to submit a timesheet early. If you work until 4 p.m. the day the timesheet is due, you must email the Pathways office before timesheets are due. Then it will be due by noon the next business day. You must bring your timesheet to every shift and get it signed by your cooperating teachers. There is a different timesheet each month that is generally color-coded. This can be found and picked up at the Pathways office. When the office is open, it can be found on the wall with all other important documents. When the office is closed, it can be found in a cubby on the bulletin board next to the door. You can also find the timesheet in your school site binders. More details to come about this later. You can also find the timesheet on the Pathways website, so you can have access to it anywhere. Let's talk about how to correctly fill out the timesheet. Remember to use only either black or blue ink when filling out your timesheet. A physical timesheet with colored ink or pencil will not be accepted. Write your full name at the top. Write the school site you are located at. If you are at multiple school sites, please use a different timesheet per school. Indicate if you are a volunteer, work study, or research foundation employee. When you write your time in on the designated day you tutored, please write the exact time you stepped into the classroom. Do not write the same time you wrote in the school site binder, because you are paid from the moment you step into the classroom. When you write your time out, please repeat the same process. If you work 5 hours or more, you are required to take a 30-minute lunch. Therefore, this must be indicated on your timesheet. Please write that you took a 30-minute lunch in the same box for that particular day. It is not necessary for you to write the start and end time for your lunch. This lunch is unpaid. Therefore, you must subtract 30 minutes from your total time worked. For example, on Wednesday, January 9th, Chris worked 5.5 hours because he took a 30-minute lunch. You should write 5 next to the hour and 30 next to the M and 5.5 for the decimal section. Note that you are allowed to take a 10 to 15-minute break if you work more than 2 hours. However, this does not have to be written on the timesheet. Besides the hours that you worked in the classroom, there are other events you may have to add to your timesheet, such as tutor training, mandated reporter training, and recruitment events. On this slide, you'll see what a tutor's timesheet should look like. There is a signature, the total time in hours and minutes, and the correct decimal that you will need to enter online. In the second picture, you will find a close-up of a tutoring day. Note how the tutor wrote the times neatly. Most importantly, note that the tutor worked more than 5 hours, which means the tutor was required to take a 30-minute lunch, and therefore deducted that 30 minutes from the start time to the end time, which resulted in a total of 6 hours and 45 minutes. You can find the decimal conversion on the back of the timesheet, as shown here in the third picture. 45 minutes corresponds to 0.8. This video will show a tutor taking the necessary steps to complete their timesheet. The tutor asks for the teacher's signature.
Hi, Ms. Amaris. Can you please sign right here where it says teacher?
Yes, I can. Thank you for tutoring today.
Yeah, of course. I'm all done for the day.
Here you go.
I will see you next week.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
After their tutoring session, the tutor logs into PeopleSoft or Workforce using their SDSU ID. The tutor goes to their timesheet for that time period, enters the time as a decimal for that day, and submits for approval. The tutor submits the paper timesheet to the Pathways office at North Education 280 before the end of the month.
Is everything on PeopleSoft?
Yes.
Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you.
If you are a volunteer, you will only be required to turn in a physical timesheet, as opposed to both physical and virtual. The reason for this is that the timesheet you submit will keep track of your hours worked that can therefore be accounted for as community service hours. If you are a paid tutor, you will either use PeopleSoft or Workforce to log your hours. Let's investigate PeopleSoft together. You must input hours into PeopleSoft converted into decimals using the decimal chart on the back of your timesheet. Use a timesheet calculator to double check that your calculations are correct. You will log in with your SDSU ID and password. This is how your timesheet will look online. Notice the time written with a decimal. Before submitting, you must click the drop-down arrow and select Regular Hours Worked. Ensure that the hours you input per week does not exceed the 20-hour maximum limit. Cross-reference the virtual version with the physical version to ensure they match perfectly. Once you have submitted your hours, Nadia will be able to approve them. Some tutors are paid through different funds and will therefore use Workforce to enter their hours. This is the login page for Workforce. You will receive your login information. Click on My Timesheet. When inputting your time in Workforce, you will need to put the start time and end time exactly. If you take a lunch, you will need to clock out for your lunch and then clock back in. When submitting your time for that day, ensure that the date is correct. Use the drop-down menu and select the Student Work In/Out option. If you take a lunch break, you will need to clock out for lunch and clock back in afterwards. If you notice a yellow flag on a submitted entry, it means that you have exceeded the amount of hours that were designated. Just be aware of it, but there is nothing to worry about. If you notice a red flag, you exceeded the total allocated hours for the week. Your Workforce timesheet must be submitted twice a month. On this final slide, we'll go over some tips and experiences from our current tutors. What to do when there is a substitute? Have the substitute sign your timesheet. What if I forgot my timesheet? Find one in your school site binder. Keep a mental note and let your cooperating teacher know so they can sign the next time you are there. What if I lost my timesheet? Communicate this to the Pathways office as soon as possible. Get a new one from the locations mentioned previously and have your teachers sign once again if possible. Since you will be tracking your hours daily online, then you should not have trouble transferring those back over to the physical copy. What if I submit my timesheet late? This will result in a probation meeting with Dr. Park and Nadia. What if I have multiple teachers? They must all sign your timesheet daily. What if you're paid out of multiple funding sources such as work-study or workforce? They must be placed on separate timesheets. Indicate at the top which funding source correlates to the designated time on the timesheet. If you have any questions about the timesheet, please contact the Pathways office. We are here to help you.